Once again, we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latex gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm Daniel, and tonight we're getting back into the Bryan Kohberger case, a case that I thought was long gone, but we got some new news in the case and some updates, and perhaps Bryan Kohberger could possibly get his day in court after all. We're going to talk about the filings. We're going to talk about what it means. We're going to talk about, does he have a case? Will this go to a evidentiary hearing or not? We're also going to talk about the 8 disorders that he has put out there through his defense team that he has, and how they, shape who Bryan Kohberger could potentially be. And they could shape out how, this case, if it goes back to some sort of trial, how it could have an impact. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell. Good to see everybody here again. It's been a while. All my Kohberger and Idaho 4 followers. Good to see you guys. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest tonight, Dr. Vona. How's it going, Dr. Vona?
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you. Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. It's I think you're coming in a little low. I don't know if we can adjust your mic just a tad bit up.
Okay, let's see if that's better.
That's much better.
I move closer.
There we go. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
New everything, Daniel. I need a whole new everything. I'm getting there.
You're getting there. Yeah, I hear you. I finally got a new computer. It's happened. It's no worries about the computer shutting down or things of that nature. So I know what you mean about upgrading and
I'll have to talk to you offline about it so I could get some recommendations.
We'll do. I'll let you know what it is that I got and everything else in between. But Bryan Kohberger, he's back in the news. There's been a couple of things that have come on, and first, I kind of want to explain what's been happening with Bryan Kohberger, because some of the headlines make it sound like Kohberger's already been granted some sort of huge new hearing, or that he's getting a new trial of some sort, and that's not the case. So I do want to explain it to everybody just so we can get all caught up. Here's the easiest way that I can explain it. Bryan Kohberger filed what is called a petition for post-conviction relief. Basically, Kohberger was saying there are serious problems with the way he ended up pleading guilty, including problems with his attorneys. And because of those problems, he should be entitled to relief from his conviction. The state of Idaho has responded, and prosecutors basically said no. What Kohberger had presented isn't enough. He hasn't established the facts necessary to show that his attorneys were constitutionally ineffective, and he hasn't established that his guilty plea was voluntary. They asked the judge to dismiss it in a court filing, which we do have the court filings. There's like 35 pages in that one. We're not going to go through everything. That's kind of why I'm going to give everybody a summary. So the state filed a separate motion specifically asking Judge Hippler to dismiss Kohberger's petition. And here's where today's development gets kind of interesting. So that happened yesterday. So the very next day today, Judge Hippler did not immediately dismiss the case. Hippler did not also grant Kohberger an evidentiary hearing. A lot of people are saying that he did. And, there was some headlines saying Bryan Kohberger got a new trial, evidentiary hearing. There's been a date set in the event that it does happen. So it's basically just holding the day, so to speak.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So in the document, it says if there's to be an evidentiary hearing, it'll happen on June 17, 2027. So what Hippler actually did was lay out a roadmap for what happens next. He's allowing the pleadings in this case to be amended through November 13, 2026. That's a weird day that he put out there, but that's the date that he decided that he's going to allow the amended pleadings. Now, pleadings kind of sound complicated, but it really is not. It's Kohberger's petition as him handing the judge a document saying, here are my reasons why I believe I should receive post-conviction relief. An amended petition would essentially be Kohberger submitting a new version of that document, the one that he said, well, my attorney and, you know, they let me down. They gave me promises. They did all this other stuff. Well, the judge basically said, all right, I'm going to give you an opportunity to amend these things. It doesn't necessarily mean he's saying that Bryan Kohberger's case as it stands would fail and he's giving him an opportunity to fix it. But more so, in my opinion, what he's going to, and I'll explain it further, what I think he's doing is he's trying to put this case to bed, allowing Kohberger to put in all of his filings, put everything, because he wants his witnesses, his everything in this. So that way it could be answered by the state. And then,
That makes sense.
yeah, then it can be all put to bed. Instead of going through appeal and then another appeal and then another appeal and then another appeal, what Hippler has done is basically said, all right, we want to hear everything, all of your arguments, put it all out there. We're going to allow you to change your petition. And they do tell him, if you change it, you can't go back to the old one. Like if this fails for you, you can't say, oh, wait, well, never mind. Let me go back to my first petition. Well, now that it's changed.
What you wish for.
Exactly. And so he's allowing him to amend it. And he has until November 13, 2026 to do so. Ain't that kind of weird?
It's so weird. I don't know where that date came from either. Travis, real quick, said BK was appointed post-conviction counsel when he ordered the state to respond. That was a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, the judge gave him...
He has a new person now, so now Anne's completely done?
Ish. I mean, if they do get an evidentiary hearing, one of his arguments is that he had ineffective counsel. And so she could testify.
Could you imagine?
Yeah, that would be insane. If you know, and so Cy had interviews with he had interviews with Steve and Christy Goncalves, and during that interview, he kind of said that he felt that Ann Taylor was going to fall on the sword, so to speak, that she's a pro-burger to the max, a believer, and that she will fall on the sword and say that she wasn't effective.
Meanwhile, she did more motions than any case I've ever... I feel like she was so effective. Like, I feel like she was on top of everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what else she could have done for him.
I don't know.
I do believe that she believes in him, though, which is weird.
It could. And you know, Cy also mentioned that she still visits him. Now, I don't know how true that is. Cy just kind of alluded to that, and that, you know, she still visits him.
That would be telling.
That'd be weird.
Oh, that would just say to me that she was part of this.
Well, he says that one of the things that she says at the end, that before the plea deal is accepted, that if this goes to trial, that she wouldn't be able to adequately defend Bryan Kohberger. So she said that in trial in open court. And so that it would be ineffective, that she'd have ineffective counsel, basically laying the bricks for an ineffective counsel argument later.
That's interesting. Hopefully that doesn't win out in court, because I think, especially being that she had that she was, you know, a public defender. Like, she had other cases, and like, I think she did a great job for him. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know.
No, I think she did a heck of a job defending him. She did what she could, the best that she could with what she had. And she put up a hell of a fight, to the point where I think that lawyering, I think she did a better lawyering job than like Bill Thompson and things of that nature. It's just that you can only do so much with what you have, right? And, you go into a poker game, you could have the best bluff in the world, but if all you're carrying is a pair of twos and the other guy knows it and he's excited because he has a pair of aces, you could bluff all you can and you could be the best bluff in the world. When you drop your cards, you're still going to lose. And that's kind of the situation here where, she had a pair of twos and she
had a pair of twos.
She had a pair of twos and she worked it. She bluffed her way up to getting a lot, in my opinion. And I think that they may have done it to the detriment of Bryan Kohberger, meaning they waived the speedy trial thing. I think that had they gone to trial right away, there would have been a lot of problems with the case. A lot of the things that Cyree had mentioned would have came up, and there would have been some question marks and stuff like that. The fact that they moved from one place to another to Ada County, I think that was detrimental to Bryan Kohberger's case. I think had he stayed in Moscow, I think that Ann Taylor would have had better control of Judge than she did of Judge Hippler. I think that backfired on him. And if they get this entire new trial, I think this too shall backfire on them, because I don't think the outcome is going to be what they're hoping for.
So if he did get a new trial, let's just say, is like the DP on the table again?
Oh, for sure.
Oh, good.
Now they're going to try to utilize what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, his disabilities, as a reason for him not to get the death penalty. And so we'll talk about that here further. But yeah, as far as this goes here, it's not been granted. And I think, and it kind of feels like Hippler's like, all right, well, let's put everything out there. You're going to put your witnesses, you're going to put your evidence, you're going to put everything that you have, that you claim you have. We're going to allow the state to answer that and put that out there in a court filing, and allow a ruling on those things that'll make it more difficult for him to come back. I mean, it's kind of like the way he laid out the coursework at the end of the last hearing, because Kohberger had written that he had disabilities and stuff like that, but that they didn't affect his mental clarity that day, and when he decided to plead guilty, and that nobody promised him anything or any of those things that he's now arguing. And so
didn't he give up his right to appeal?
He did. And so this isn't really an appeal. This is I want to take my plea back. So it's kind of weird. It's kind of different.
It's unbelievable.
And in this scenario, this is now considered a civil case. And so whereas in a criminal case, the burden is on the state to prove this, in a civil case, it's on the defendant or the petitioner, which would be Bryan Kohberger, to prove the ineffective counsel and all that other stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different.
Time.
Huh?
He has nothing but time, so I'm sure he's like reading all the law things and all.
I'm sure he is, and I think that this was a plan that they probably put in place, a while ago.
And if Anne's visiting him, she could be like helping from behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, up until he got this new attorney, I mean, and again, I don't know that he has. That was what Cyree alluded to, And then there's also the fact that you had Brent Turvey, who some speculate and some have the opinion that he may be the person who is responsible for the Dateline leaks and other leaks that came out.
Get out! They got to the bottom of that.
Well, so it's not so much that it's that he was putting out information, and he made some statements. Steve was the one who had brought it up, that alluding to that he even made the claims that he knew everything and he knew things he shouldn't have known. And because he was a crime scene reconstructionist, so he reconstructed the crime scene. So if you had a question about the crime scene based on blood spatter or positioning of the bodies, if they could have possibly been staged, or the motion in which the perpetrator walked through the house, etc. But he had info of like everything else in Bryan Kohberger's case, including like Brian's like online searches and stuff like that, and things that weren't necessarily supposed to be, he was supposed to know. Like, for instance, Cyree was only privileged to the phone. Like, he wasn't privileged to any of the other information or the other evidence, but it seemed like Brent Turvey had more privileges than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I wonder how that happened.
I don't know. I guess, I mean, I think he was supposed to be like the star witness for Bryan Kohberger. And, I think he was going to try to say that there was 2 weapons, multiple perpetrators, and a cleanup. Plus, there was like, supposedly, he changes his story. He said it was hair in Ethan's hand. Now there was a clump of hair on the ground. But the hair belongs, from what Steve had told me, was that the hair belonged to Ethan because of the way he was being stabbed.
That's horrible.
Yeah. And so, like, what he described was if you had like a clunk of hair and you can tell where it comes from, you're not going to DNA test it.
Gotcha.
And so Bryan Kohberger's defense team is looking at the same clump of hair that you can tell comes from the victim, and saying, "Oh, well, they didn't test it, so it could have been the suspects."
Wow, that's horrible.
Yeah. So,
someone said in chat that Hitler's docket's full for 10 months. That's why it's June, and that he just won re-election, so he doesn't go on a bench again. I mean, he doesn't go up for re-election again until 2031.
Nice. I like Hitler.
Yeah, I don't mind.
I think he's stern, he's strict, and he takes control of his courtroom.
I was just going to say he has command of his courtroom, and that's important.
Exactly. Like, with Judge, I just felt like he was kind of weak, kind of bent over on everything.
Big time. I think that would have been a shit show. I think the best thing they did was have it moved, even though, it wound up working out for the prosecution, which is good. But I agree with you. I think that would have been a shit show.
Yeah, no, it would have. I don't think it would have happened. I think it would have continually gotten postponed. But
now, do you think that this is going to give a year for people to just bring everything back up with the case again now for the next year?
Well, at least until November 13th. So Bryan Kohberger has till November 13th to amend his stuff. And if he doesn't, then I doubt he's going to win anything, because he's basically going with his current pleading, saying, all right, I had ineffective counsel, blah, blah, blah. But he's going to bring in he's got his attorney already. They're going to bring in some sort of evidence they're going to put up there. And he's got till November 13th. At that point, the state has 14 days from then, or from whenever he amends his agreement, up to November 13th, and to, I guess, respond to that amendment. And then there'll be a status hearing. There'll be a couple of things like witnesses and stuff like that have to be in place between then and in I think like May or March. There'll be a status hearing in June, on June 3rd, and I think that's when we find out if the June 17th hearing is actually going to happen or not.
Do you think it will?
No.
No, and I think that that's really smart, though. Like, I almost feel like it's strategic to give a date for it, because that way it's like, okay, well, I like entertain the thought of it. It's just that's not what wound up happening.
Well, not only that, but it allows him to put in strict deadlines. Because one of the tactics that Bryan Kohberger had used was this, stall tactic of continually stalling and stalling. And, I wouldn't be surprised if, what he wants to do is make, stall this as long as he can. There's the pro burgers, or there's a lot of them, and he's hoping to build that following so that way there can be, I don't know, something there that he can fall back on. I don't know. I guess if there's a trial, he's hoping to get a pro burger on the jury. I don't know. But,
You never know.
Yeah, you never know. But from here to there, they're going to be putting in a bunch of documents and stuff like that. Now, this isn't a criminal trial, so everything I believe should be public. We should be able to see everything. There shouldn't be anything redacted. And we'll be able to see the evidence in real time of what it is argument is and what it's not. Now, just because I don't think he'll win the argument, I'm with Steve and the G's, man. I give this guy another hearing. Let him get what he's asking for, so that everybody else can get what they want too. Which is that firing squad T-shirt that we have on our.
I swear, I was just going to say you could bring out that firing squad shirt.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like I said, I'm with them. Bring it on. Let's go to trial. Another thing that you're going to end up getting, I wish you would get, that you're going to wish you didn't, because you're probably going to lose, buddy. Now, the only thing I guess he would be able to get back is the right to appeal, which he will. Let's just say this goes to trial. He loses. He gets the death penalty. He's going to appeal, and that process is going to take forever. And so what Hippler's doing here is, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think he's laying it down so that Bryan Kohberger gets everything out there this one time. And that way he doesn't have anything else to fall back on and to argue. And so he's putting it all out there, get all your witnesses, do all this so the state can respond in a court order. And so that way, once there's a decision made on all of these arguments that you have, you can't go back on it anymore. Your decision is made. So this stops this from continually happening. So, he might say, well, I have X, Y, and Z reasoning as to why I want a new trial. And then, or 1, 2, and 3. And then in a couple of months after that, well, I got 4, 5, and 6. And I also got 8, 9, and 10. Basically, it was like, all right, you put 1 through 10 down, you put it all down on the line, we'll make a decision on it. And then, this way, I like this, because this way there's going to be less of an opportunity for him to continue to fight things.
Wasn't that like what they kind of did the first time, though? Like put into place that he can't appeal and all those things, so that he couldn't do that. And he's kind of still doing it.
Yeah, and there's, like I said, there's probably going to be a way that he's going to weasel his way into something else in the future.
In my opinion, this just comes down to him wanting to be heard, and you know what I mean? Like, it's almost like his name starts to fade away, and it's like, here I am, don't forget about me.
I would agree. I'm glad I have you on here. So let's talk a little bit about him. Aren't you surprised that this is the direction that he went, that he's innocent and this, that, and the third, versus setting the story straight over, saying his version of the truth of what happened and why he did what he did?
So all I could guess is that if he was like a prolific, serial killer or whatever, then I could see maybe him being like, this is mine type thing. But he probably, and this is just my speculation, he probably is thinking, like, because there are pro burgers out there, they exist. So what if he's just thinking in his head, like, what if I get one of them? Like, this could just be, what else does he have to look forward to in life? So it's like, if I could get off on this somehow, I can continue whatever I was doing. If that makes sense.
What do you mean? I don't understand. If he gets off on it.
like if he got off, like let's just say in his head, I know he's not going to, but in his head, if I fight this and we get a pro burger or something and I get off somehow on a technicality, then he can continue his fantasies out in the real world. I feel like if he had, and this is just my opinion, I feel like if he had like many, and again, there's 4 right here, right? But I mean many incidences, he'd be more likely, in my opinion, to be like, oh yeah, these are, I don't know. I guess the only thing I can think of is that he thinks there's a possibility that he could somehow get out, and that would be the only reason why he would plead, say that he wasn't guilty. What do you think? I mean, and it brings attention to him, right?
I think he wants the attention. I think he's just a whiny little.
He's just a whiny bitch that wants attention, and he has no identity. And now he's going to create this identity through, media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he loves this.
I agree. I mean, I think that's what it is. Oh, I can't play with my friends and my friends don't like me. Somebody said they wanted to butt touch me. I think that was one of his arguments. And he's putting names out there of people like, oh, Pedro in cell 4 is doing this and saying these nasty things to me, like all this crazy stuff. Right. And so I think that because they're not giving him his way, they're not, giving him what he wants. He's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to file a petition to pull my plea. Plus, I got all these people who believe me now. Look at this. I got these weirdos over here who like me. Women that are sending provocative photos, men that are sending provocative photos to him. It's weird. It is.
Hybristophilia.
It's called what?
Hybristophilia. It's a
what
real
does that
thing.
mean?
So it's when people fall in love with people behind bars. And one of the things, if you think about it, it's like, you know where the person is at all times because it's a very abnormal behavior. But you know where the person is at all times because they're behind bars. There's just reasons why people do it. But there are people out there that specifically, reach out to people behind bars looking for relationships.
There are some weird folks, but hey, to each is their own, Allie says, Daniel, do you think he's going to try to represent himself like Ted Bundy and Rollins did? I don't think he has the cojones to do that. What do you think?
No, I don't think he has the social skills to do it.
I think he has a fantasy of what he thinks he is and what he wants to be. I think he thinks of himself as a Ted Bundy, as a Patrick Bateman, as one of these guys that has charisma and that can talk to people and can hide who he truly is, but he can't.
I agree 100%.
He's not one of them, and I don't think he has the cojones to do it. I would be afraid at trial at this point because of the pro. Well, I mean, the pro burgers, I don't think they're all like, if you look at like the YouTube demographic for pro burgers, they're not in Ada County. You know what I mean? They're not in Idaho.
That is true. And don't you you're not supposed to, I mean, I guess you could say almost everybody knows about this, but you're supposed to get people that don't really know about it. So I would hope that there wouldn't be a pro burger, if you will, on the jury anyway. Yeah. No. And like the one fear is that like in the Karen Reed case, there was this one lady who a lot of people thought, including myself, think that she may have been, a person who was in support of the defendant, Karen Reed, in that case. She had wiped her social media before when she got, I guess, like before she got selected for the jury or around the time she got selected for the jury. And so she wasn't following anybody, and then immediately after was following the heavy hitters that were supporting Karen Reed. That is a fear of mine in any case, because when that happened, but you have, in that case, he had a big following of support for the defendant from the area. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the case in this case here. There's not a big support for the defendant from the area. In fact, as Ann Taylor argued, that majority of the people in the area already thought he was guilty and wanted him dead. You know what I'm saying? So big difference. Idaho isn't Massachusetts. I think it was in Massachusetts where Karen Reed situation occurred. And so, the pro burgers, like, they're from all over the place. Now, are you going to find some that are from the area? There was one dude who was a big pro burger. He was from Pullman. And he talked to Cy Ray. But I think there was like 3 or 4 people that would show up
but I think some of those people were from like a distance away. But even at that guy from Pullman, he still couldn't affect the jury in Idaho. He's from
And
Pullman.
I'm also assuming even if there was a few people in Idaho, the chances of them being picked for the jury,
Yeah.
like statistically, are slim to none.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then, it takes a special person to attack, like, for instance, the father of a victim. You know what I mean? Those people don't really make good juries or selectees. You know what I mean? Those people typically have their own problems in their background and stuff like that. And abuse issues, like substance abuse and stuff like that, for the most part. I mean, to attack a victim's father like that, you can't be all. There's something got to be wrong in your head to attack a victim's father.
Because I think it would be each person would be different, but I would say in general, there's something that is, that's not okay. So I feel like there's something at the heart of that if somebody's attacking a victim's family member.
Right. And so if you're a Kohberger and you're the type that attacks a victim's family member or has those type of situations, you probably have some other things going on in your life that are going to come out on paper, or that are going to come out, while you're there, and you're not going to get picked. So, that's just my my thought process on that. But Bryan Kohberger did, and we'll kind of transition into this, had a psych evaluation diagnosing him with several different things. Let me pull this up real quick. So I wanted to get your opinion on all this. So he was, Bryan Kohberger revealed that he had been diagnosed with 4 mental health disorders in 2025: autism level 1, OCD, ADHD, and ARFID. All righty. So let's start off with those. Real quick, I don't know what ARFID is.
It's ARFID. It's an eating disorder. It's like picky. Well, it's more than picky eating because it's disordered, but it's an eating disorder, which is a disorder of control, nonetheless. So I think that that's an important part here. I've always thought the eating disorder thing, I definitely see that. I will say one thing, though. He didn't get, and I'm not diagnosing anyone here, I have to say that, but he didn't get these diagnoses until what did you say, 2025?
February of 2025.
So, and a lot of these diagnoses, that's my only problem with this. And you can say there are plenty of people, especially people that commit crimes, that might not have a diagnosis. But I want to know, like, especially the autism diagnosis, I want to know what what testing they did to get to that. That's the other thing. And I don't know that I know all that. If they did like neurological testing and, it shows that he has autism, then fine. I can accept that. But I just don't know how much of this was diagnosed because it was in preparation of trial for the defense.
Well, one of the things that they were looking at is that they were going to, from what I understand, is they were going to try to 2 points. One, that some of the behaviors of Bryan Kohberger had, meaning the stalking of other women, the harassment of other women, the way he talked to other people, had the close proximity, etc. All these disturbing behaviors that he had. What the defense was trying to do was they were trying to say, well, it was more so behavior from this, not so much that, and try to limit the agitating factor, because law enforcement was using this as a reason against Bryan Kohberger, to talk about his behaviors with women and other students and with faculty, etc. And so the defense didn't want to bring this in. Now, do you see, like, with autism 1, level 1, OCD or ADHD or ARFID, do any of these limit your ability to determine what is right and wrong?
No, obviously, absolutely not. And another thing is, most people that have a disorder are usually the victim of crimes, not the perpetrator. But I think so that was my other thing. Even if, we did get something that said, I have ADHD, that doesn't mean that I'm allowed to, do you know what I mean? I still know the difference between right and wrong. So No, I don't think that this mitigates anything at all. And I think that there is, I mean, I would like to see a psych eval done by an independent source to see if there's any like any indicators of like antisocial or narcissistic personality, or even things like, schizotypal or obsessive compulsive personality, where there's like rigid, a lot of the symptoms of obsessive compulsive personality disorder can often get mixed with something like autism. So I would just like to see an independent psych eval where they were able to not only give him an evaluation, but even give him tests where they could see if he's lying about things, you know what I mean, or just saying things to try to get certain diagnoses. So that's why I would, that's the only reason I'm so suspicious of his diagnoses. The ARFID one, I do think that there was evidence from, prior that he had something going on with disordered eating. From what we were able to see, I believe he even did, allegedly did the time in an eating disorders type unit of a hospital for an eating disorder way back in Pennsylvania. So I see that there were signs of that. So when they say ARFID, that doesn't surprise me. But in the autism, again, if he has the proper diagnosis, fine. But I would want to make sure that it wasn't, or I don't know. I just want an independent evaluator just to make sure that it's not, bias because one side was paid to do it.
I agree. Having an independent, but I think that memory serves me right. The defense didn't want somebody that the state set up as an independent. Let's see. And Bryan Kohberger does have a associate's degree in psychology out of Northampton Community College and a bachelor's degree in psychology out of DeSales University in 2020. Do you think he has the ability to maybe fake some of this stuff?
No, I think that he could, anybody could read symptoms and, report symptoms if they really wanted to fake it. I do think though that sometimes, and other people that have gone with psychology like I did, I think a lot of times we get into psychology for reasons of like trying to figure out the world around us. So I wonder, I think it's interesting. His sisters, aren't they both in like the counseling field too?
Yep.
So that's just interesting.
Or at least one of them is.
I wonder what's behind all that.
I mean, they have, especially them, because I think they were used heavily in describing his behaviors as a child and things of that nature. From that point of view, can somebody with the knowledge that they had describe events and maybe stretch those events so that way it fit a certain narrative?
Sure, we have things like malingering where, if you have a reason, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but this would absolutely be a possibility where, for example, let's say you have a lawsuit for like a car accident and you hurt your back, but you're think of the word linger. You're allowing the symptoms to continue even though they might not be, because there's a gain at the end of it. So could the gain here be saving their brother? Absolutely, they could exaggerate, but then they also might just be like, because my thing is, I guess I don't know how much they pulled the alarm, if you will, before all of this happened. Like, how much did they voice these concerns before all of this? Because a lot of this is hindsight, right?
Well, I know when he was a child, they did have some problems with him. He did have some behavior problems. Yeah, and he did have some behavioral problems and things of that nature. So I believe they sought out help for him. That's why he had the whole snow thing going on with his medication, the visual snow. Then he had the Tappa talk, and he talked about his feelings and things of that nature. So based off of that, I highly suspect that there was, because of his behavior problems, probably some sort of reach for help there. I wouldn't be surprised.
I wonder if they ever sought help or if it was just something that was like part of the family, like they just do.
I don't know. I mean, I had heard rumors from very credible places that there was this, that they had put Bryan Kohberger supposedly when he was a kid, like on some medication that changed him, and I think his Tappa Talk kind of talks to that, where he talked about a loss of feelings and things of
That
that
would
nature.
be so interesting. If you ever find evidence of that, please shoot it my way.
I will. And that they felt that it just kind of changed him, the medication that they put on him. His personality, he lost his personality, so to speak, is what they were trying to allude to.
Then I wonder if there were signs of autism when he was younger. And I wonder, unless it's ADHD medicine, maybe they're talking about. I wonder, I'm trying to think, what kind of medication could they possibly be alluding to? And all I could think of, a medication that we often see that changes, or that people will report seeing changes like that, would be in something like an ADHD medication, where you'll hear a kid is running around and then they take their medicine and all of a sudden they're just and that doesn't happen to everybody. If you're medicated with the right dosage, it's supposed to slow your brain down, not stop it. But
Right.
I wonder if that's what they're referring to, ADHD meds. Did they say or no?
Kind of, but I'd have to go back and look and remember. This was a while ago, but that there was just some medication involved, and I think his Tappa Talk, talks about certain effects of other medication that gave him visual snow, and that it was giving certain side effects.
I don't remember medication being part of that. I felt like he was going to Tappa Talk because he didn't know what he was getting visual snow from, and he was trying to. But I could
maybe
be wrong.
so.
So now I need to guess who's reading Tappa Talk tonight.
Yeah, you might be right. I'd have to go back and look at it too. It's been a
look.
while, but I could have swore that there was something to do with his medication and things of that nature. But maybe I'm confusing that and what my source told me about that before. So I don't know. There's so much information I had gotten in this case. It's not even funny. But so let's continue. So this says here that Taylor Broner, following an attempt by prosecutors to classify Kohberger's mental health and developmental disabilities are aggravators, violated her client's constitutional rights by criminalizing his status as a disabled person. And that's kind of what I was referring to, where, they were going to try to say, all right, this person had problems. He was harassing women, harassing students. He was getting in arguments with the staff. He was making people feel uncomfortable. There was teachers who had statements that were similar to that Bryan Kohberger is a predator, that he's going to be somebody that in a few years we're going to be hearing about, etc. Those type of things. Well, they didn't want those things to come out, so that they were trying to do was try to put that under the umbrella of they were part of his developmental disabilities, the behavior that he had, the closing people off, the not allowing people to leave, to holding the conversation longer than, making people uncomfortable, etc. Do you think they have an argument?
I think that there's plenty of things that he did that were inappropriate. My thing is, didn't anybody worry about this before he left? Because this is all stuff that happened at home. So my thing is did mother and father think that he was just going to go out there and all of a sudden learn how to socialize, or not to get in people's personal space and stuff like that? So I'm just there are plenty of people who have autism, for example, or other disorders, whatever, that get occupational therapy or different types of therapy that help them with their environment. And I'm just wondering, I don't know if he had all of these things at home in Pennsylvania. I just wonder, did they think he was just going to go out there and meet new people and maybe grow out of it? I don't know. I mean, not that they could have imagined that something like this would happen, but I could imagine that he'd be extremely socially awkward and that maybe he wouldn't do great in that environment. But
well, I think that, I don't know, right? Because I wasn't there or know Kohberger or his family. But I can assume that him getting his master's degree and stuff like that may have given his family some sort of false sense of security or something of that nature, that he's overcome whatever it is that he may have been dealing with as a younger person.
Great point.
And so, but again, I can't speak for them at all.
That's a great point, though.
Here, or which is the doctor who evaluated Kohberger, met with Kohberger on 6 separate occasions over 3 months for testing, evaluations, and conversation. Her report was Kohberger's restricted range of facial expression and stoic effect at baseline. What does that mean to you?
So a stoic affect, and affect is your facial expression. So if we hear often things like flat affect,
Mhm.
and that's like, I'm not able to like tell if you're happy, sad, you're just giving me flat. So they're just saying that the expression or the, what other people got as far as his affect, or, when I was around you, I felt that they felt he was stoic.
And how
So,
is that? How is that
how's that look?
like relative to anything that?
So they might have just thought that he was like quiet and like stubborn, or like, you know, standoff stoic. There's many. So maybe they just thought it was part of his personality, and that um, there are people that are socially
Well,
evolved.
these are the things that she wrote that led to her reasoning for the diagnosis of the
Oh
A-
well, I
ADHD,
misunderstood.
OCD.
I
So
misunderstood your question. So we see with things like autism, we have social. You might have problems with social interactions and stuff. So I'm not sure exactly which diagnosis she's leading to. I know that one of the diagnoses was like developmental disorder or something, but we usually see that in childhood, not in your late 20s. So like there was just I just want to know like who paid this person. I'm being
the
serious.
defense.
Do you know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
that's like what keeps jumping out at me.
She wrote, his smiles were often slight. His social smiling was either inconsistent or absent, and the manner in which he often furrowed his eyebrows during more light conversation contributed to awkward engagement. I mean, what
So
did you expect this guy to do? Walk in there, be smiling? He's in jail for quadruple homicide.
no,
Like,
but if you think about what she said, right? They were inconsistent or absent. She's already saying that she's having a problem with his affect. And now, so my thing is, why wasn't something like an antisocial type disorder considered um, with these same things that she's saying here? So that's all. So I feel like, and it's because the answer to that, in my opinion, is because she was paid to say that he has X, Y, and Z, and not A, B, and C.
so it goes on to say that Kohberger exhibited a number of atypical social behaviors, which included a lack of descriptive or empathetic gestures, atypical speech tone and cadence, awkward interaction, lack of fluidity, awkward delivery of humor at times, carrying on with a joke longer than expected. I mean, some people are just weird. I don't think that means that they have some sort of disability.
No, but this is the thing. I feel like there's a ton of people that might, like, I know plenty of people that have taken the joke too far. But the thing is that they eventually realized that even if they decided to take it to that next thing, they knew that they were taking it too far. Or once they took it too far, they were like, oh shit, my bad, and didn't do it again type thing. So my thing is, I feel like this is like just part of his personality characteristics. Like, I don't think he sees it as a problem, but it's awkward to other people, and therefore you're gonna have problems, with interpersonal relationships.
So can this be construed as stalking?
No, no. I mean, you could say that somebody that stalks someone could have these type, but no, you could trust me. There's all kinds of types of stalkers.
No, I understand that, but carrying on to this is what they're um, trying to argue, that his behavior towards the people that we know that he had problems with, like at WSU, etc., and his professors, because these are the character witnesses that are going to come up about, the type of person that Bryan Kohberger was. Their response is that the reason why people are they're they're interpreting Bryan Kohberger wrong. What they're seeing is not, him being a stalker, being weird, doing things that should be concerning or red flag-ish. He's just being a person with disability. Would you agree with that?
Daniel, I teach at the college and university level, and especially at the college level, like community colleges, things like that. no matter where I teach, I have so many autistic students and students with all kinds of diagnoses, and even students who would consider themselves socially awkward. It's different than standing in front of the door, not like letting somebody leave, or like purposely walking out to the car knowing that you're creeping someone out, or this is my thing. The people that accused him or, said about stalking, he gave other reasons, in my opinion, of why he fit that category. So for me, both things could be true. He could have this disordered personality type thing, or disordered, whatever his diagnosis is, and then on the other end also be a stalker. So I feel like I see those two things as separate, but absolutely both. I think that there's evidence of.
It goes on to say awkward delivery or awkward comments. An example was, I had a lot of fun doing the XX cognitive text, meaning he had fun doing I guess some sort of problem that they had. Somebody having.
Wait, what did he say? He had
fun doing and it just puts XX and then it puts cognitive text.
Huh.
So are you familiar with the game Minesweeper?
No, but if it has anything to do with like cognitive strategy, I'd love it.
So
that's why I was like kind of like, wait, what? Because I could see myself saying something nerdy like that, like, oh, that was fun. Right.
So Minesweeper, what it is it's a game typically on the computer where you have like this field of mines. Now you have 100. If you did it like on the easy, I think it's like 100 spaces, and in those 100 spaces you have like maybe 20 mines, and they're all, you don't know where the mines are. You click on a button and it's going to tell you how many mines are within a 9-block area. So the 3 blocks on top, bottom, and to the left and the right. So if I click on a square and it says 3, that tells me that there's 3 mines in that area. If I click on the very next square and it says 1, well, that tells me that 2 of the 3 are away from that 1. And so you got to figure out using like deduction and math on where these mines are. I find it to be pretty entertaining and fun. A lot of people don't, because it's a lot of math and a lot of thinking and counting.
I can't wait to look it up.
It's pretty awesome. I don't know if my computer has it. But
this is the thing, though. I don't think that something like that alone is concerning. That's why I kind of was like, what with that one? But like when you're talking about like autism, that might help us understand someone, like as far as their social skills, stuff like that. But and even the ARFID. So the ARFID is like restrictive eating, like I was saying before, but that does not explain things like targeting victims. You know what I mean? Like entering the residence, killing 4 people, concealing evidence if he did, monitoring the investigation afterward. Like none of that accounts for that. So like I have plenty of students, me including myself, I have ADHD. Like I would never think to harm someone else. Most people with a diagnosis, about 50% of adults, according to research, will get diagnosed with something at some point related to mental health. So to think that alone, and at the same time, I don't want people to be like, oh, well, because there could be a situation, where I'd feel different. But here, no, I feel like he knew exactly what he was doing, in my opinion. Is this it? This is it.
So you'll click, I don't know. So right there, I clicked on a box. So right here, there's 1 mine in this 9-block square, right? So that's 1, that's 1, that's 1. Here, there's 1, so that's going to be there's 2. So here, there's 2, so you have 2 there. That means that's empty. There's 1 there. And then there, 33, 2. So I have.
That reminds me of Battleship.
Yeah, it's pretty. I enjoy it. There's 5 here, so that's 1, 2. That gives you 1 there. 3, 3.
Look at that.
Good stuff. I did this one time when I was younger. The fastest I had ever done the beginner or that level was 3 seconds. I went.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was pretty good at it. I used to do.
I can't wait to play after. But that's what I mean. Like, should somebody put some like report out on us because we're both nerds and we're excited about mine, whatever it's called?
Minesweeper.
Minesweeper. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so that part wasn't the part that like gets me. It's the other things.
Nina Drew comes in with $4.99. I found you searching for BK info when the slaughter of the 4 angels happened. Oh, thank you, Nina, for joining us, and thank you for your donation. And then S Dubs comes in. I think in college you do not believe you are being really stalked unless it's overly flirtatious. No one believes they will ever be killed in their sleep.
Let me just tell you, you guys, we are way too lackadaisical, like when it comes to this stuff. I think we all think that. I mean, think about even little things. We don't think things like if you have sex without a condom that you're not going to get pregnant. Like people don't think that they're going to be the target or the victim of any of these things. So, and especially when you're 19 years old, which is why I think Dylan, that explains why Dylan didn't call the police, right? I don't think she was thinking, oh, you know, that was a person that just came in and slaughtered our roommates. Of course she would have called then. So I do agree with that comment. And I just think that, you know, until it happens close to home, it almost feels like it can never happen to you. And that's what's scary about a lot of these things.
Very much so. Very much so. So this continues to say that Orr wrote in her evaluation that Kohberger was impulsive, has impulsive tendencies throughout the evaluation, pointing out that he violated rules and rushed through tasks. Additionally, added overall poor insight, except for a few moments of fleeting acknowledgement when explicitly challenged to consider his role in certain situations. What does that mean?
That is so interesting. So poor insight, which we saw in the Lindsay Clancy case, if anybody's following that, her provider said she had poor insight as well. So insight is big for me. If I you know, if I were to guess if if a loved one was going to be able to be helped, if they, you know, when it comes to things like therapy. Let me give you an example. Let's say my kids are going to therapy. My biggest indicator of whether it's going to work for them is, do they have the insight? Because if you lack insight, how much can you really help yourself? Like, how much can you go on? If you lack insight, then are you really understanding that you're making people feel weird? You know, I think that's what they're saying here. But my thing is, could you also have insight? Because how did he automatically gain insight again when he was challenged to do these routine games or whatever it was, the game or whatever it was that they said that he was able to all of a sudden regain insight? Usually when you don't have insight, you don't have insight. It's like you have it or you don't. So the fact that like he has insight sometimes and then or he didn't, and then all of a sudden he can regain it. To me, that's like, what?
Well, I mean, he also came up with that whole spew about him not having feelings. Everybody's a sack of meat, etc.
I don't understand why I mean, I guess because they didn't get paid to do that. But these symptoms for me fit more of, and again, I'm not diagnosing, but these fit more of personality patterns, like disorder there, cluster B specifically, than anything else.
But isn't that having some sort of insight in himself, knowing about that of himself, knowing that he has these struggles with emotions and things like that?
Yeah, that's insight. Yeah, I have to be honest with you, you guys. If you go back and read his Tappa Talk, I'm about to give BK a compliment here, and this might be the only time. He had incredible insight when he was young. If you read his Tappa Talks, he was very much in tune with his emotions and like his position in his own world. So maybe not within the world, but within what he considered his own world at that very young age. So I think he showed insight a lot of times. I mean, even to get into a doctorate program. Like, how do you get into a doctorate program lacking insight?
I agree. This goes on to say his family members also described engaging in extensive social coaching and add provision of social feedback to no avail. So his family was questioned, heavily about this. Or also said that Kohberger had met the criteria for 4 additional diagnoses in the past: developmental coordination disorder, an unspecified depressive disorder, anorexia nervosa, and opioid use disorder. The last disorder, a result of heroin addiction Kohberger developed in his teenage years, is in sustained remission. So are they trying to say that he's not done heroin in a while? Basically,
no, I think what it's, in my opinion, the way I took that as somebody who, like, teaches abnormal behavior. For me, that meant like, I mean, that shows that he has the tools needed to stay sober, right? He has the will, the tools, and the ability. He's able to stay sober. So I would, what are the tools that he uses to help himself as opposed to going to heroin or whatever he was using in the past? Also, eating disorders are a disorder of control. And the fact that they said here about anorexia, I'm glad that it's written down there because I know that I remember he did time in an eating disorders thing. I wonder, I don't know this to be true or if anybody knows, does anybody know if his addiction started due to him losing so much weight that he had he had surgery to like remove skin? I'm wondering if they put him on opioids then, and if that, I don't know. But none of these things,
well, no, I think he started the heroin when he was younger. I think that may have attributed to the weight loss, possibly.
Gotcha.
But
that
I think
makes sense. That makes sense. But I bet you there's so many people in the chats right now that are 4 years sober, and it would be almost like I said with ADHD, it's like offensive to be like, why would you think somebody with ADHD would do that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, S. Stubbs. I appreciate that because we all know you have to be careful with that.
Yeah. And so, development coordination. What about the depressive disorder? Unspecified depressive disorder. What does that mean?
That's interesting. I don't remember seeing that before. So that just says that at some point he met the criteria for major depressive disorder. So, and I don't know, didn't like friends of his pass away during his time? Like, I don't know at what point of his life he was diagnosed with depressive disorder. Was it in, you know what I mean? Was it in his teenage years, his young 20s? I don't know when it was and if it had anything to do with, I know that there were a few deaths related to drugs around him. I don't know if they're related though.
So with all that being said, with all these disorders and things of that nature, do you think they reached a level to the point where this guy shouldn't be, if gone to trial, shouldn't? And just your opinion, no,
it's just my opinion. Absolutely not. I think he is completely. And I think this is the thing too. So people are watching me. Somebody might be surprised because with the whole Lindsay Clancy thing, I'm a little bit more lenient with the whole mental health stuff. So people might just assume that I might be like, oh, all these diagnoses, he shouldn't, da-da-da. But that's not true. I think this is an example of how having a diagnosis isn't an excuse for bad behavior, right? And I think that this isn't a complete, and this is just my opinion, but this isn't a complete look of this because, again, we only are seeing things from the defense point of view. I'd be curious to see if the prosecution had the same workup done, if they would come back with something like personality disorder. So all of that would all play into, and think about it, if there were characteristics or behaviors consistent with personality disorder, then a lot of this stuff would be like getting over on us type thing. So absolutely not. I think that he not only knew what he was doing, but there's clear signs, at least to me there was, that he had been thinking about this for quite some time and that he escalated it and watched things to get himself more into it. And so, no, I think he identified with this in an antisocial way, in my opinion.
But do you think that this should be like a reason for him not to get the death penalty?
Nope.
Is there anything in there that tells you that he didn't understand what he was doing?
No, and that's my thing. There could be somebody out there with this severe, with psychosis or any type of disorder where I might think differently. But in this case specifically, no. I think I've done enough of the research and stuff like that behind this that I don't see anything that he didn't understand that what he was doing was wrong. If anything, I see signs of things like sadistic behavior, which would be like the opposite of.
Well, I mean, his search history, from what I understand, was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that Steve had mentioned that Bryan Kohberger was watching was breast augmentation surgeries and things of that nature. Like, yeah, he was watching like surgeries of women
Oh, and then I feel bad for saying this shit. I'm like, it's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, what the?
Yeah. Pretty crazy stuff.
Oh, that's
Allie,
like put the lotion in the basket. Bad.
yeah, he wanted to see the insides of like,
Oh my god.
yeah, sick stuff, you know. Allie Book says, do you think they're going to let one, are they going to let one be the evidence in? They're going to mute when there's certain evidence. Also, do you think they're going to allow cameras in the courtroom? I hope they do. But they've been allowing cameras in every courtroom, so I don't think that's going to change. As far as if they're going to let evidence or if they're going to mute anything, I think that if there's anything that needs to be muted, it's probably out of respect for the families and respect for the victims. You know, if there was something there that they were going to bring in, like I know right now the photos of the crime scene are censored, so you can't see the bodies and things of that nature. Some of the accusations that Bryan Kohberger had put on there was hair in Ethan's hand. So if they were to go through that evidence, I still think that there's probably going to be some redacted stuff that the public's not going to be able to see when it comes to like the victims' bodies and things like that, which I think
I agree with.
That should be the way it is. I mean, you got to have some respect for them.
Allie, real quick, said something. I did a video like a long time ago on pickerism. Pickerism is another one of those crazy words. We learned hyperstephilia tonight and pickerism. So pickerism is a disorder where people get pleasure out of imposing pain on someone else, but through cutting. I wouldn't be surprised. Someone asked about pickerism. I wouldn't be surprised if Bryan is a pickerist.
Allie, man, all the evidence, do you think they're going to let all the evidence in?
What I know about evidence is the thing. When my friend was murdered or whatever years ago, the first trial was a hung jury. And I remember being so pissed because I said to the prosecutor, I'm like, you had so much more evidence. Like, why didn't you say this, that, and the other too? And in the next trial, they didn't say all the things, but they added more, and it was enough to get a guilty verdict. What he explained to me is that everything you get in is something that can be appealed later on. So you want to get in just enough evidence to get that guilty verdict. You want to make sure you get the guilty verdict, but you don't want to throw all the evidence in because now you're giving more of an opportunity for the defense to appeal on at a later date. At least that's how I was explained. I don't know if you know it any different.
So the evidence that it depends, right? Like what you're talking about. So some people will point towards things that aren't, and I'm not saying that Allie's pointing at this, but like, for instance, I don't know. I mean, let's just say that Jack Showalter, right? They may not allow Bryan Kohberger's defense team to bring him up as a possible suspect in this without evidence of it. And so that's a possibility of what she means by that. At the end of the day, when it comes to the evidence, it's the defense that's trying to get the evidence taken out, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, right?
Yeah, it's usually the defense trying to get evidence taken out, which kind of reminds me to like where we are today. A lot of the pro-burgers act like we're here today and say things like, oh, well, just let him have his trial. Let's go to trial. Let's go to trial. Like as if it wasn't Bryan Kohberger's decision to take a plea and his choice to accept a plea. And the reason why we're not at a trial. The G's, myself, everybody else that watched this case that they call the guilters. We wanted a trial because we wanted the ultimate punishment put down for him, you know, and we are hoping he gets what he's asking for.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Well, I hope he gets it. Because I don't think it's going to go in his favor, especially once we start hearing about all the stuff. And then you have people like Cyree who were on his defense team coming out with damning information about Bryan Kohberger possibly even being in the house at one point before the murders.
I would not be surprised. I think I always thought that or assumed that he was. That there just wasn't evidence of it, so that would not surprise me in the least bit.
And then Bryan Kohberger's phone crossed paths with Maddie's phone on multiple occasions. And so it started, I think he said in August, where there was a party that was next to Bryan Kohberger's apartment, and that he ended up going over there. That she and Kaylee were at, Manny and Kaylee, and so what I think happened is that he was on one of these like local apps, because I think that's where he kind of I think, yeah, either that or Snapchat. You know how you can look at where people are close by.
Big one.
I think that's where it started. I think he saw them, went there, saw them, and began the following then.
I hate that our kids all have their locations one for everyone. Because again, just like somebody was just saying before that you highlighted, like we never think it's going to happen to us type thing, but sometimes we don't realize that we're making it easier to become a target by just putting all of our stuff out there. And this is coming from somebody sitting on a live right now, you know what I mean? But so I get it, we put our stuff out there, but to think of like my kids and they're like, oh mom, it's just our friends, but then you look on it and there's like 100 kids and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you guys all know where each other are at all times. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. And I tell the same thing to my daughter too. I was like, yo, you can't be doing that. People know where you're at. It's not good. Well, Dr. Vona, we've crossed over the hour point. What do you have going on the rest of the week?
I have an answer finally. I never have an answer for you when you ask this. I always dread this at the end when you're like, what do you have next? And I'm like, I don't know. And I had all this time to think of it. But I do know for one. So on Friday, Dr. Schultz is coming, you guys, to talk about Lindsay Clancy. And for those of you listening, she's on your side because we all know that I'm like on a small little island of my own. I don't know. But anyway, you guys are going to be interested to see what Dr. Schultz has to say. So make sure you tune in for that. How about you?
I'm going to have Steve from True Crime Web on the channel. He's going to be joining me on Friday night.
Perfect.
We're going to be discussing the Nancy Guthrie case. We have some new information when it comes to the blood and some new ideas. So I'm excited about that. Also, guys, if you haven't checked out my other channel, Married to the Hobby, we just dropped a video of us at going through, what was it, the spirit stores in San Antonio. It was pretty fun. So exhausting, but fun. I would appreciate it if you guys go check it out.
I'll definitely go check it out.
So this is the Married to the Hobby. So go. We're at 759 subscribers, so we're getting close to 1,000. Yeah, if you guys would do us a favor and go check us out, I appreciate it. And then also check out the Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona.
Oh, thank you.
Great channel. And you said you're doing this tomorrow night?
No, Friday night. So this is the deal. Whoever's with me will watch you on the replay. Whoever's with you will watch me on the replay. No big deal.
Good deal. Good deal. And so real quick on the, what is the Clancy? Is that her name? I'm not familiar with the case.
You don't know about that case?
I know a little bit.
So I don't know. She killed her 3 kids with the bands. I think that.
What's her name?
Lindsay Clancy.
Lindsay Clancy. I've been wondering.
And right now, tomorrow, they're going to be doing like closing arguments, and then the jury's going to be out to see what happens. I don't know. I'm at a place where like I wish there was like manslaughter or something. People are going to come for me, whatever. So I'm just going to be honest about how I feel. I'm like, I can't get down with the whole like first degree murder thing, but then I'm also like no longer just thinking like not guilty type thing. I wish there's something in between. Thank God I'm not a juror because I would wind up hanging this thing but there are attorneys out there that would say, so if you're an attorney like Travis, if you're still watching, would probably say that that's the point. If you have a little bit of a doubt, you have to say not guilty. And I don't know, that's just where I'm at right now. Nobody else is, Daniel. I'm like all by myself.
I wouldn't be joining you. I'm sorry.
Well, that's what I mean. And that's okay. I'm totally okay with that. And I appreciate everybody that still shows up, you know what I mean? Because I'm not disrespectful about it. Nobody's disrespectful. And if anything, people have gotten me over more from where I was before because I no longer think that she had like this, hallucination that she thought she had. I think it was more of a delusion. But I think as far as like the law's concerned, I still feel like even though she had like, she could have.
Well, I got a question for you though. If we were to go based on, because I don't know very much, but from what I understand is her defense is like that she had some hormones type of thing, right?
It was more than hormones.
But it was essentially like a hormone imbalance and
Well,
a series of events and stuff.
postpartum psychosis.
Right. I mean,
So postpartum.
wouldn't this start to lead to an argument for a lot of things?
No,
You know,
because-
like for instance, like men and doing a horrible crime against women and say that it was testosterone and it was hormones imbalance and stuff like that.
Well, so this is different. So this isn't like postpartum depression. Like there's first of all, we had like the baby blues, which most women feel after pregnancy. Then sometimes that'll turn into postpartum depression for some people. And a lot of people have that. Postpartum psychosis is so rare that if it did come up in a trial or, you know, for someone, I would want to look at it and see what evidence do you have of that, because that would be legit for me. So my thing is, you would have to fit the diagnosis type thing to even come up, to even like try to plead that particular thing. I see what you're saying about like a slippery slope, but we're talking about psychosis, which is so rare. And so it wouldn't be something where so many people would have it. But I see what you're saying. People could take advantage of the insanity plea too. And I feel like, you know, it's not, I don't know if it's taken advantage of. I don't think it is. I don't hear a lot of people pleading insanity. You have an argument, but I just think that.
To me, I just always felt like the insanity argument was that the person knew that they couldn't tell the difference of what they were doing was right or wrong.
So
and I'm not necessarily certain that she didn't know what she was doing was right.
I agree with you actually on that, but this is the thing. This is where I'm saying by law, I would probably find this thing because I wouldn't know. I'd be so confused. But so apparently in Texas, that is what you would have to do. But where she lives in Massachusetts, there's like an extra protection of like layer for her where like she could have still known that what she did was wrong. It's more, did she lack the capacity to be held responsible for it, which is like different because of the psychosis type thing. So that's where I think I get mixed up. I'm going to be interested to hear the jury rules to see like how the law is read and to see how that plays into what I'm thinking.
That's interesting. Well, I'm a very ignorant person when it comes to that case, and also the psychosis is that she's talking about or referring to. I don't know any of those things, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'll tune in. I'll tune in as well.
Thank you. I will too to you. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Please have a good night. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. See y'all later.
Bye, guys.
Bye.